Welcome to Learning Anatomy with Dr. Bakari. In this class, we'll be looking at the celiac trunk. The celiac trunk is the first anterior division of the abdominal aorta. This is the celiac trunk here, harrowed in black. And you see the celiac trunk giving off branches to supply the different organs around the region where it emerges from. And this includes different regions of the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, the upper part of the duodenum, lower part of the esophagus, the liver, and also the gallbladder that is closely related to it. Write down with me as I unfold the different branches of the celiac trunk and also how they drive to supply the different organs that are located around this space. The celiac trunk. When we hear trunk in anatomy, it means the artery will further subdivide. So we have the celiac trunk, and the celiac trunk emerges just inferior to the aortic opening of the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm that separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. And the aorta running from the thorax, which is the thoracic aorta, we need to pierce through the diaphragm before it can enter into the abdomen. So it pierces it through the aortic hiatus at the level of the T12 thoracic vertebra. And as it enters into this region, there is the emergence of the celiac trunk. The celiac trunk is the first anterior division of the abdominal aorta. We also have the inferior phrenic artery that emerges before the emergence of the celiac trunk, but it emerges on the side. But we have the celiac trunk emerging as the first anterior branch of the abdominal aorta, and this is the celiac trunk. And the celiac trunk supplies organs that emerge from the foregut. Then inferior to the celiac trunk, we have the superior mesenteric artery, and this is the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery supplies organs of the midgut, while we have the inferior mesenteric artery inferior to these, which supplies organs that emerge from the hindgut. So going further on the celiac trunk to see the different branches that emerge from it, we have three major branches that emerge from the celiac trunk. And the first one is the left gastric artery, and this is the left gastric artery. We have also the splenic artery that runs towards the spleen, and this is the splenic artery. Then we have the last one, the common hepatic artery. This is the common hepatic artery. So let's dive into this to see the different branches that emerge from the different major branches that we have listed. So these three branches also further subdivide into minor branches. So let's take it one after the other. Let's take the first major branch, which is the left gastric artery. The left gastric artery is the smallest and also the first branch of the celiac artery, and it runs along the lesser curvature of the stomach. This is the left gastric artery, and you see it as it emerges from the celiac trunk. It runs along the lesser curvature of the stomach. Remember, this is the lesser curvature of the stomach, which is the smaller curvature, and we have a greater curvature at the left side, which is the bigger curvature. So it runs and parts along the lesser curvature of the stomach, but along this process, it gives off esophageal branches, and these are the esophageal branches. These esophageal branches supplies the lower part or the lower region of the esophagus. Then the left gastric artery then continues in its path along the lesser curvature after giving off the esophageal branches that supplies the lower esophagus. Then it continues as the left gastric artery to supply the cardiac region, the right part of the fundus, and also the right upper part of the body of the stomach. So it supplies this region to this region. So supplying the lower part of the esophagus, this is the fundus region, and it supplies the right part of the fundus and also the right upper part of the body of the stomach. So what it does finally is that it creates an anastomotic network along the lesser curvature of the stomach. So let's keep this in mind as we go through with this lecture. There's going to be an artery that will come and form an anastomotic network with the left gastric artery. So going further, we have the splenic artery. This is the second branch of the celiac trunk, and it emerges because it runs towards the spleen. Along the path, as it runs towards the spleen, it supplies structures that are seen along this path, which include the regions of the stomach and also the pancreas. So this is the splenic artery as it emerges as the second branch of the celiac trunk. You can see the direction is tailing towards the spleen. So as it goes, the first branch that it gives off is the pancreatic pancreatic artery, and this is the pancreatic artery because the pancreas is located along the path of the splenic artery. So it decides to give a branch so as to supply it with oxygen and nutrients. The second branch as it goes to the spleen are short gastric arteries, and these are the short gastric arteries. You see short branches emerging from the splenic artery towards the region where it's about to enter into the hilum of the spleen. To supply the spleen, it gives off the short gastric arteries, and these short gastric arteries will supply the left part of the fundus. Remember that we said that the right part of the fundus is being supplied by the left gastric artery. The short gastric artery are about 5 to 7 in number, and as they emerge from the splenic artery, it supplies this region. Then the third branch that we have, the left gastro-omental artery or the left gastro-epiploic artery, and this is the left gastro-omental artery that emerges also before the splenic artery finally penetrates into the hilum to supply the spleen. It quickly also gives off a branch that runs along the greater curvature of the stomach, and this is called the left gastro-omental artery or the left gastro-epiploic artery. So where this artery supplies the left region of the body of the stomach, this is the body of the stomach, this is the left region along the greater curvature. So it supplies oxygen and nutrients to the left region of the body of the stomach. Remember, the right part of the body of the stomach along the lesser curvature is supplied by the left gastric artery. And this is the region where it will supply. This is the body of the stomach, and this is the left upper region of the stomach. So it supplies this region down to this region. So you can see that the different minor branches that emerge from the major branches of the celiac trunk are already taking up the different regions of the stomach to supply them with oxygen and nutrients. And also to add that the left gastro-omental artery, we also create an anastomotic network with another artery. So let's still have this in mind. You can see that when we describe the left gastric artery, we said that the left gastric artery will form an anastomotic network along the lesser curvature. So also the left gastro-omental artery or the left gastro-epiploic artery, we also form an anastomotic network around this region. So it means that we should have at the back of our mind that arteries will be coming to form an anastomotic network with these two arteries. So let's have that in mind as we go through with this lecture. So the last branch is the common hepatic artery, and this is the common hepatic artery. Remember, we have our left gastric artery, we have the splenic artery, and the last branch of the celiac trunk is the common hepatic artery. The common hepatic artery will first split into two. We have the hepatic artery proper or the proper hepatic artery, and this is the hepatic artery proper. From the name, it goes towards the liver. Then we have the next one, which is the gastro-duodenal artery, and this is the gastro-duodenal artery, which runs towards the duodenum. So that is the initial division of the common hepatic artery. After this division, we have other progressive division that will occur between the proper hepatic artery and also the gastro-duodenal artery. So let's follow to see how this will be unfolded. So let's go through the proper hepatic artery, the one that runs through to the liver. So this is the proper hepatic artery. The first artery that emerges from the proper hepatic artery is the right gastric artery. And this is the right gastric artery highlighted in black. So it first emerges from the proper hepatic artery and it runs down. As it runs down, it runs upward along the lesser curvature of the stomach. Remember, we said that the left gastric artery is waiting for an artery for it to form an anastomotic network with. So the right gastric artery is what it actually forms an anastomotic network with along the lesser curvature of the stomach. So the right gastric artery being the first emergence from the proper hepatic artery, it emerges and it runs along the lesser curvature of the stomach, where it now connects with the left gastric artery to form an anastomotic network along the lesser curvature of the stomach. So this is how the anastomosis is formed. So the right gastric artery will supply the right lower region of the body of the stomach along the lesser curvature. This is the lesser curvature and this is the body of the stomach. So it's going to supply the lower right region of the body and also the upper region of the fundus. You can see that the right gastric artery is an emergence from the proper hepatic artery. The proper hepatic artery also branches from the common hepatic artery. These arteries are directed towards the liver to supply it with oxygen and nutrients, but they decide to give off a branch that is called the right gastric artery to supply the stomach. Even though they are directed towards supplying another region, they decide to give off a branch that supplies the stomach. Then furthermore, as the hepatic artery proper proceeds after branching off the right gastric artery, it finally terminates, and its termination gives off the right and the left hepatic artery. The right and the left hepatic artery are the terminal branches of the proper hepatic artery. The right hepatic artery will supply the right lobe of the liver, while the left hepatic artery will supply the left lobe of the liver. This is the right hepatic artery, and this is the left hepatic artery. Then finally, we have an emergence of the cystic artery. This is the cystic artery. The cystic artery supplies the gallbladder, and it emerges from the right hepatic artery. So the right hepatic artery gives off branch to supply the gallbladder, and this is termed the cystic artery. And that is how the proper hepatic artery finally divides along the liver to supply the liver and also the gallbladder. Going down on the gastro-duodenal artery, this is the gastro-duodenal artery. The gastro-duodenal artery will further subdivide into two. We have the superior pancreatico-duodenal artery, and this is the superior pancreatico-duodenal artery. This artery will supply the pancreas and also supply the duodenum, and that is why we have the name pancreatico-duodenal artery. So the superior pancreatico-duodenal artery supplies this region. This includes the duodenum and also the pancreas. So we have the second branch, which is the right gastro-epiploic artery or the right gastro-omental artery. And this is the right gastro-epiploic artery. Highlighted in green. This artery will run along the greater curvature of the stomach. Remember, we have the left gastro-omental artery, which branches from the splenic artery. We say this artery is waiting for another artery for it to form an anastomotic network with. And the artery that has arrived to form this anastomotic network is the right gastro-epiploic artery or the right gastro-omental artery, which is a branch of the gastro-duodenal artery. The right gastro-epiploic or right gastro-omental artery supplies this region, and this includes the left lower region of the body of the stomach along the greater curvature. So this is where it gives off branches that is supplied. You can see the artery highlighted in green emerging as a terminal branch of the gastro-duodenal artery. You can see it on the right side, and it runs and turns to the left region along the greater curvature of the stomach, where it will be supplying the lower part of the body of the stomach. And eventually what it does is that it forms anastomosis with the left gastro-omental artery or the left gastro-epiploic artery. You can see that the name is similar. One is the left and the other one is the right. So along the greater curvature of the stomach is where they form this anastomosis. This is the interesting presentation that we have from the celiac trunk, giving off three major branches, which finally gives off sub branches. So thanks for watching this video. Let's meet again.